We always say that we want to hone in on the individual creator because ultimately they're the people that are doing the work. They're the people that are coming up with the creative process. They're coming up with creative ideas.
Changing the world, one blockchain at a time, with George Levy. Brought to you by Blockchain Institute of Technology.
Hi, and welcome to Changing the World, one blockchain at a time, where we feature the leading minds and personalities in blockchain, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency. I'm George Levy, and today we're having the opportunity to speak to Matt Cimaglia. Matt Cimaglia is a CEO and co-founder of Altion.io, an ecosystem that streamlines creative workflows for content creators of all backgrounds. An expert in cutting-edge and Web3 technologies with more than 2 decades experience running an award-winning creative agency, Matt stakes his reputation on a relentless commitment to every project he takes on. Matt, I'm really excited to be speaking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, Matt, one thing that was great, I actually saw you live at Bit Basel. We were actually at Art Week in Miami, and you ran a great session presenting some amazing developments that you're doing. One of the things that I loved about this session was that you are basically opening the entire space of NFTs and content creation to basically the mainstream. A lot of people are afraid sometimes to get into NFTs, but you're actually taking steps to open up and mainstream the whole space. Can you tell me more about what is Altion.io?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Altion is a platform for creatives, and we always say that we want to hone in on the individual creator because ultimately they're the people that are doing the work. They're the people that are coming up with the creative process. They're coming up with creative ideas. And largely over my last 2 decades of experience of running an agency and being a creative myself, I didn't have access to the tools that a lot of the one percenters had, meaning the bigger studios. You know, we're talking about the Warner Brothers or the, Disneys of the world. And when you think about it, we're in a very different age today, as we've seen with social media, or even what we're doing right here, right now, right? We're not part of a larger studio system, but yet we're using a technology that's usable for us or acceptable for us to be able to get in from a cost perspective, but also from an ease of use perspective. So going back to the ethos behind what really drove the inspiration behind Altion was, again, 2 decades of experience of knowing that technology could actually help advance the amount of work that I'm creating or help streamline the process, because there's so much fatigue when you're creating a production. And I know firsthand that when I get into a zone or when I get into a groove, I just want to create. I just want to focus on the storytelling component of what it is that I'm doing, and having to go in and out of 6 or 7 different platforms, although they're great and they help streamline some of the process, there's a lot of fatigue or context switching that happens when you're going from one platform to the next, to the next, to the next, to just complete one singular task or one production. So when we built Altion, we really had that in the sort of mindset of how we were building it, so that there was a huge ease of use or a very low learning curve to get into the platform. Accessibility is really critical when you're building a platform like this, just because, again, a lot of creatives might not necessarily be super technical people. And then when we also thought about it, again, I mentioned the bottom-up approach, right? We wanted to hone in on the individual creators. So anyone that's a TikTok influencer to a small brand or agency, or as we're starting to see now with some of the unfortunate layoffs that have been happening, people are getting creative about their potential job possibilities, or they're going out and creating their own post house or their own editing facility. And it's just them and maybe a friend or a colleague. And now having access to the tools that were once only accessible to the one percenters, Altion really grants them the sort of access to these tools that helps them truly collaborate in a cloud environment.
Yeah, one thing that I loved about the whole session was how, and you put it out there, because you're talking about there's the ones that know how to use this thing. There's the ones that have 50,000 different tools. There's the ones that actually know how to navigate those 50,000 tools, right? And yet you're actually stepping in and actually providing a solution that basically hits the entire mass market, which is why I loved your session over at Bit Basel. You were actually very, very defined. And basically, you opened up your arms to everybody in the audience. I commend you on that vision.
Thank you. And I think that it takes somebody that actually has sat in the seat of everyone else to be able to create something. And I'm very fortunate that, I had the means, but also I had the drive to be able to go out and say, I know that there's dysfunction in the space. and I want to do something about that. And I'm really hoping that my peers, right, creative peers, all look at this from the perspective of everyone always has that idea of, oh, I wish I could do blank. I wish I could improve this process. And there's very few people that actually go out and do that. And again, I'm crazy enough to be one of those people that said, you know what, enough is enough in the space. Let's move forward. With BitBasil, we were really fortunate because we were announcing our partnership with Opera. And the Opera crypto browser now is going to, next month, actually have what we're calling Alteon Launchpad embedded inside of it. And now this is slightly different from what we've built over at Alteon, but it builds into the same ethos of building on blockchain and taking advantage of the newer technologies that exist to us today and the newer processes that happen to be available to us. And with Alteon Launchpad, this is a very unique experience because when people traditionally talk about NFTs, at least for the last year or two, it's always about how much can I sell an NFT for, or how much did somebody buy an NFT for. So it's very transactional. And my viewpoint has always largely been on leveraging blockchain as a utility. So when you think about NFTs, getting out of that mindset of I'm going to mint an NFT just to go and sell it. I see a future, and it's very near, where I'm going to mint an NFT to show you a picture of me and somebody on vacation. It might be, my Christmas pictures that I'm going to post as NFTs, not to go and sell, because I wouldn't ever intend on anyone actually seeing value in those. But I'm minting it in the sense of I'm not giving that file or that asset away to a social media conglomerate that can then go and do with it whatever they want. And I think that that's really unique to hone in on. And I think that we're very optimistic in sort of this trajectory on showing people that there's a wider use for it. One of the examples that I gave the other day is when I was growing up, everyone had a disposable camera, right? And you'd get that disposable camera, and you couldn't wait to get it developed, because you'd go to the drugstore, give it to them, and pay $10, and they develop your film, and you'd get those physical prints afterwards, right? So there was a cost associated with that. And then when digital came out and I was posting pictures online, it was free, right? I could take a picture and I could post it. Well, there's a cost associated with it somewhere, and it was a hidden cost. And that cost was really giving that right or giving that asset away to the social media company, as I said before. So I look at it now as, okay, well, if I go and spend 25 cents to mint an image, it's almost going back to that same original cost of me going to the drugstore and having that physical ownership over a photograph.
Perfect. So actually, that brings up a really big thing, because right now it's great that you actually bring up the issue of the social media platforms, because that also brings up the issue of Web3 and decentralization, right? So now you're bringing NFTs and Web3. When you're looking at the Alteon ecosystem, you talked some of it about it, but how would that tie into your entire vision that you're actually rolling out, the NFT and Web3 folks?
Well, I mean, think about Web3 as a whole, right? It's a progress. It's moving forward from what we've learned from the past, what worked, what didn't work, how we need to improve. I think that's the one great thing about the internet, is that it's always moving forward. And we've seen this again, and especially in my lifetime. I've been very fortunate that growing up as a kid, I had a computer in our house. I remember getting my first modem as a kid and being able to, go online and hearing the annoying sound that we're all accustomed to. Yeah. And so, I think of it now as this, we've now gone way past that. And I think there are some areas that kind of caught us by surprise as a society, right? I think that, we never intended for social media to be the thing that it is. I remember being in an office with somebody and them saying, "What's this Twitter? Like, why would I ever care to, write a short little message and send it out there?" Or even YouTube. I had a really big client when I was running my agency that brought me into their executive boardroom and said, "Hey, we heard about this thing called YouTube. Could you guys produce content for it?" So again, we're very much so in moving forward. So when you think about Web3, it's really all about ownership, and it's all about securitizing data. And I think that when we go into leveraging blockchain for Alteon, one key element is metadata. So we're working towards a mission right now of securing metadata for assets, meaning I upload a file, I'm a news organization, and I'm putting in the metadata that it was shot in this location at this time, and it's featuring these people, right? Well, when that is locked in metadata, there's no room for error in the future. Nobody can go in and modify that. So it sort of starts to reduce the amount of fake news that we start to have because it's factual.
As NFTs, you actually lock it into the asset as an NFT?
Well, that would be part of the blockchain. Yeah. So it would almost have like a metadata ledger that we're creating for that. That wouldn't necessarily be an NFT itself, but yes, we are leveraging. It would still
be recorded on blockchain.
Correct.
Excellent.
And then when we look at NFTs themselves, again, it's all about the creators, and it's all about those creators having ownership and having that provenance of a file that exists in a platform. So again, I really want like our biggest thing moving, into the company and going about, 4 years ago, almost, when we were thinking about really solidifying what we were building, it was always about the creator. We always wanted to focus on their experience first, their ownership of files. And, we've been very fortunate that Web3 has advanced this. You have some bad actors out there. I'm not going to name them, but, we've seen some ups and downs over the last even month, right? But largely, everyone's a creator. And I think that when we start to think about how to use Web3 and NFTs for a positive reason, that's really what we've been focusing on at Altion.
That's excellent to hear. Matt, this has been a really valuable session for the audience that actually, a lot of creators in the audience. How can they actually find out more about Altion? How can they get to use your tools?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's super simple. I encourage everyone to go to altion.io and read about it, right? Educate yourself on the platform, on what we can do. We 2 months ago announced a partnership with Apple for Final Cut Pro. So if you're an editor, you can actually take your content from Altion Cloud and access it directly within Final Cut Pro. So that's a really big key element if you're especially working with remote collaboration. So somebody's shooting something in one city and somebody's editing something in another city. It's sort of streamlining that process of post-production. So altion.io is the best place to go to, where you can watch webinars, you can read blogs, you can see what other people are doing on the platform. And better yet, there's a free access. So you can go sign up for free. All you need to do is put in your name and enter a username and password, and then you're on the system. We're giving everyone a free access to 10 gigs of space, so you can kind of play around with it. We have a holiday promo going on right now, so it's for $12 you get 12 months of access of standard usage, which includes 250 gigs of free storage. So again, we're all about trying to make this easy for users to come onto the platform and really start to play with it. We have a lot of advances coming out over the coming months ahead, and we're very much so. We have a roadmap right now where we're geared up for NAB. We're excited about what we're going to be able to announce in April. But every month between now and then, we have a lot of new elements and little helpful things that are going to really streamline the process for content creators.
Excellent, Matt. This has been I really enjoyed this session. I learned so much. I know that this is actually very valuable to the audience, and I appreciate very much the opportunity to speak with you today and wish you much success.
No, thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something in the process. I bring you brand new videos every single week, so make sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm George Levy. We're changing the world, one blockchain at a time. See you next time.